By devoting just 6 minutes each weekday for 1 year, you can read through the entire New Testament using David's servant's daily devotional, HeavenWord Daily. Order your copy at heavenword.tv.
Well, God bless you, and thank you so much for joining me once again as we're continuing our chronological study through the entire New Testament. And we are going deep at this time, deep into the Olivet Discourse, so deep that if I was to review, I would never say anything new to you because we've covered so much material already. So if this is the first time you're watching us, please bear with me and either go back and review or just face up the fact that you've missed a lot that's come before what I'm about to say. We're looking at Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 15, where Jesus made his first mention of the abomination of desolation. And he's told his listeners, when you see the abomination of desolation in the standing in the holy place, which would seem to be the temple or the Temple Mount, he said, then you need to flee. And so we're looking at what is that abomination of desolation exactly. It's referred to, of course, in Daniel's prophecy in the 11th and 12th chapters, and we've started take a look at that in verse number 31, where it's first mentioned. But let's get some background this time, because we've got a little more time to do that. And talk about Daniel chapter 11. It's all one prophecy which Daniel received, and he tells us when he received it. It was, according to Daniel chapter 11, verse number 1, in the first year of Darius the Mede. And so Daniel saw a succession of from the Babylonian kingdom to the Medo-Persian kingdom, and he served in those governments to some extent. And so, according to history, this was around 538 BC. And this angel reveals the future to Daniel, and he reveals to him about 400 years of up-and-coming history, and it's all history now. Look what he says in verse number 2 of Daniel 11. And now I tell you the truth, behold, 3 more kings are going to arise in Persia. Then a 4th will gain far more riches than all of them. And that was King Xerxes, beginning with an X, okay? And as soon as he becomes strong through his riches, he will arouse the whole empire against the realm of Greece. So if you know anything about world history, Greece ultimately took over the known world from the Medo-Persian Empire. It was Alexander the great conqueror. And in fact, he's mentioned here in verse number 3, and a mighty king will arise, and he will rule with great authority and do as he pleases. There's no doubt that that's referring to Alexander the Great, and already we've covered about 100 years in just those first 2 verses, because there were 4 successive kings, he said, in Medo-Persia. And look at verse number 4. That's the sum total of Alexander's reign. Of course, he died, I think it was age 33, after conquering the whole world, nothing left to do, so he died. But as soon as he has arisen, his kingdom will be broken up and parceled out toward the 4 points of the compass. And that's exactly what happened after Alexander the Great died. His four of his generals divided up the kingdom, and each took a slice to rule over. And they had nice big kingdoms for each one of themselves, and north, south, and somewhat, I guess, east and west. But I happen to know more about the north and the south because that's the one that's referred to in the rest of this chapter. Daniel starts talking about the king of the north and the king of the south and their successive battles. And these 2 generals of the north and the south, one, of course, the north would be Syria, south would be Egypt, started dynasties. And let's just read a little bit further here. Verse number 4 again. But as soon as he has arisen, his kingdom will be broken up and parceled out toward the 4 points of the compass, though not of his own descendants. So they weren't his own sons that took over his kingdom, nor according to his authority, which he wielded, for his sovereignty will be uprooted and given to others besides them. Well, those are the 4 kings. Then, now listen closely, verse 5, then the king of the south will grow strong. Well, this is the first of the Ptolemaic pharaohs, beginning with the letter P, P-T-O-L-E-M-Y. And I've got it written some little notes here in the edge of my Bible. And anytime we read about the king of the south in subsequent verses, it's always either Ptolemy 1 or Ptolemy 2 or Ptolemy 3. In fact, you can read about them in verses 5, 6, and 7. We just run through these guys and their wars, and they're always wars against the king of the south. And that was another dynasty by that one general from Alexander's army, and I believe his name was Antiochus. So there's Antiochus 1, Antiochus 2, Antiochus 3, and all the sons of the Antiochuses fight all the sons of the Ptolemies, and so forth. And so you can read it and follow, get out a history book of the history at that time in that part of the world and follow it and pretty much line it all up with those people who are all history now. By the time we get to verse number 11, we're talking about a war between the king of the south and the king of the north, and it's Antiochus 3 and Ptolemy 4. Okay? And so I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but it gets interesting. You get down to verse number 17, and you read about one of these guys, he will give him the daughter of women to ruin it, but she will not take a stand for him or be on his side. We're all the way up to about 197 BC at this point in time, and guess who that gal is in history books? Her name's Cleopatra. Okay, that's the gal she's the last pharaoh of Egypt, of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Married her brother, probably, which was the custom in that day. Didn't like her brother, squashed him, and went on to have an affair with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. And they made movies about this gal because she was a colorful character, and she's in the Bible. Okay, and then finally, we get down here to verse number 21. Which a little note I put in the side of my margin is about Antiochus 4. And I'm not 100% sure of that, but anyways, it was one of the Antiochus guys. And I think this guy was known as Antiochus Epiphanes. And from there all the way down through verse number 35, it's, it all fits details about his life. And catch this, we read this last time in verse number 31, during one of these wars where he's fighting back and forth, he sets up the Abomination of Desolation. And we're going to have to wait till next time to talk about that. See you next time.
HeavenWord 7 is made possible by the financial support of viewers like you. Thank you.